In this workflow video, we will learn how to use Synchro to power the Last Planner system. Traditionally, a weekly work log is kept in a spreadsheet like this one to help in ensuring work is ready to be performed by addressing resource constraints and checking the soundness of the schedule. Additional sources of information such as the schedule, resource statuses, construction models, and additional information is also used to log important planning information. In this video, we will show how to integrate these different sources of information into Synchro. This results in more effective and collaborative pole planning sessions aided by simulations and visual planning generated in Synchro. With Synchro, you can put information used in weekly work plans directly into the Synchro platform. The first way is by having users create their own custom user fields for different types of constraints that are criteria for soundness. Then, you can put these user fields in the Gantt chart by creating your own custom columns. If the soundness criterion for this task is met, the corresponding cell is marked with a 1, and if it is not met, it is marked with a 0. The soundness of the task is then determined by these criteria. If you go to the user field window, you can see that these criteria for soundness are their own user fields. But these user fields are not calculated. They are simply entered by the user. The user field that is calculated is the soundness user field. The formula for the soundness user field first checks if the criteria is filled in the Gantt chart. If it is, then all the criteria is met and the soundness is 1. Or if any of the criteria is not met, it is not sound and therefore it is marked with a 0. In Synchro, you can have two 3D windows open like I have on the screen. On the left, I have the planned activities view in which you can see the model being built. The site context in this window also makes this window very useful for logistics and planning. Now, on the right, I have the status resource view, which shows the status of each resource indicated by the colors that are defined by the user. In order to more easily compare the two views in the 3D window, I'm going to link the view so they both move together and share the same view. And now, if I navigate through the timeline of the project, you can appreciate the difference in both windows. If I go to the resource window on the left, you can see the colors that dictate the appearance of the resource status in the resource status 3D window. On the top, you can see the interruption set of resource statuses. This set is loaded into Synchro by default, but the user must create the subsets. And at the bottom of the resource status window, you can see the color options that determine what color appears on the resource status 3D window. There's more than one way of assigning a resource status to a resource. One way is by first selecting the resource, then right-clicking the resource status you want to assign, and clicking Assign Status on selected resource. The other way is by using the button at the bottom of the Resource Status tab, Assign on Selected Resources. This added functionality allows superintendents and planners who have access to an iPad and Synchro site to update the status of a resource while on the construction site. In this way, constraints can be flagged more easily and communicated with the construction team instantly. This is an important application to the Last Planner system because it greatly reduces the possibility of foremen committing to work that is constrained. Now, I'm going to go through an activity in more detail so you can appreciate the difference between the Resource 3D view and the Resource Status 3D view. The activity we're going to observe is the FRC columns level 2. So, if we go to the start of the tasks and zoom in, we can see that the columns are being poured and the model viewer shows the columns as built. But if we go to the Resource Status 3D window, we can see that the columns are being stripped of their formwork and are curing. And as we go more along the timeline of the project, we can see the columns have cured. By using the resource statuses, we can get more information about each activity going on in the project. You can also use Synchro to focus in on certain look-ahead windows. This feature is very useful when you want to discuss the schedule of the project with the construction team during a weekly work plan. And the way you focus on these certain look-ahead windows is by using task filters. So here on the left, you can see the filters window and you can see that we made 3 filters. We made a filter for the 6 to 8 week look ahead, for the 3 to 5 week look ahead, and also for the soundness of the activity. If we look at the 6 to 8 week look ahead filter, you can see that we are filtering tasks by the data range, and this data range is inputted by the user. What is also very cool about this filter is that it uses a data date as a reference point. So each time that you want to look at this look ahead window, you don't have to change any of the date ranges. It always takes the range from the data date. If you go over the 3 to 5 week look ahead filter, you can see the only difference is the data range. And if you look at the unsoundness filter, you can see that we are filtering tasks by the user field, and we are excluding any tasks that have soundness with value 1. This way we can filter to see all tasks that are unsound. So first we are going to apply the weeks 3 to 5 filter, and on the Gantt chart you can see that the tasks are limited to those that are 3 to 5 weeks of our current data date. So now I move to the start of the FRC wall level 6 task, and you can see that all the tasks that are 3 to 5 weeks ahead of the current data date, which is the dashed line on the left. Now, in addition to the 3 to 5 week filter, we're going to apply the unsoundness filter to see the tasks that are within the 3 to 5 weeks of the current data date, and also those tasks that are also unsound. So this is a very useful tool to use when you're in a weekly work plan in a look ahead meeting and you want to see which tasks are not yet ready to be performed because they have constraints. So if you look at the Gantt chart, you can see the soundness of the activities is 0, and if you wish, you can also activate the task filters in the 3D windows. On the left, you can see the task that can be performed during those weeks, and this filter is most useful when you are working on large projects, so we are going to turn off that filter for now. If you look at the resource status window on the right, you can see there is a resource that is constrained. And if I want to select the task that is associated with the resource, I switch the settings on top so I can switch them from the default settings. So now, when I select the resource, I can be taken to the task, or vice versa. When I select the task, the resource will also be selected. And this way, I can see more easily which is the resource and the task that is constrained. If we look at this wall, we can see that it is flagged unsound. The Gantt chart shows that it is not constrained by any of the 6 criteria. But by taking a look at these resource statuses, we notice that it was flagged with an interruption set. Constrained can be made ready. This is an example of a resource that was flagged in the field using Synchro site. If this constraint was flagged during the look ahead meeting and the Synchro package was not used, the planners would not be able to consider this in their plan, resulting in an unreliable schedule. We can also move to the activity FRC wall level 7, which is also unsound. In the soundness criteria, we can see that this activity is constrained by the crew, so perhaps this constraint might be addressed in the look ahead meeting by increasing the size of the crew or by modifying the current schedule. This example is a good demonstration of how the powerful visualization and simulation that Synchro generates can help the construction team easily identify scheduling problems and help the team be as best informed in the decision-making process. In this way, you can streamline your planning workflow and optimize construction operations. This concludes our Last Planner System workflow video. I hope you can use ideas presented in this video to improve the management of your current and future projects.